Episode 25 of the Interpretation Station is Call to Order. Dobrodošli. Welcome to a truly historic episode today of the Interpretation Station. Yes, we are doing our first ever episode for my viewers that speak Jedi. Jedi, you ask? Well, to avoid any awkwardness with this language, I know some of you speak Bosnian, some Croatian, some Serbian, some Montenegrin. I have decided, because it's my channel, I am going to call this language Jedi. That way no one gets offended, okay? Now, I personally speak the Serbian dialect of Jedi. The statement we'll be looking at today is in the Croatian dialect of Jedi. I mean, they do it in the Arabic world, don't they? They have the Lebanese dialect of Arabic. They have Lebanese Arabic, Egyptian Arabic. You have the Gulf Arabic, and of course, the overall one is sort of modern standard Arabic. So we're going to say that this is modern standard Jedi with all the little dialects that make it up. So yeah, this is a really excited to be doing this episode. So it's based on one of the texts that I put up on my LinkedIn page a few days ago. It was by the Croatian foreign minister, a statement she did last year. And so you may have seen my annotations on the page, sort of shortcuts I would do, interesting vocabulary that I was suggesting. So this is my chance just to go into a little bit more depth as to my rationale, choosing what words saying why I chose what, etc. And just give you a chance, hopefully, to learn some new vocabulary for going into English that'll make all your lives a bit easier when you're at work. So here is the text, as you may recall. So why did I say some of these things? Okay, so the first thing that I put up here was неизвестно. So it's always good to remember. It's unclear. We say in English. It's not clear. It's unclear. Now, izlazak Ujedinjenog Kraljevstva. So we would in the UK we would say generally, the departure of the UK's departure from the EU. That's typically the word we would use for izlazak. And of course, the agreement that was all based on. I mean, this is before the agreement was signed. So this is from last year, or maybe even 2019. Obviously, this is now the agreement was signed. It was called the Withdrawal Agreement, so that's why I put that in. Then, okay, so Croatia at this time was država predsjedatelj, the presiding state, we would say. So, and then doprineti pronalasku. So, okay, I know there's a temptation with doprineti to say contribute to. Okay, you can say that, but it's a lot quicker just to say help, isn't it? To help reach an agreement. That's why I put that in. Okay, now the next bullet point. So you see, the statement was all set out in bullet points. This is a bit of a tricky one for people going from a Slavic language into English. Okay, because the speaker starts with naš program predsjedanja. So it's actually the accusative, isn't it? It's the object, because the subject in this sentence is vlada. Naš program predsjedanja vlada će službeno usvojiti. Now you can put it in that order, obviously, in the Slavic languages. It's a bit tricky, however, in English. When you start, we don't really start with the object, but there is a way of getting around this. So what you could say in English is our program for the presidency. Well, the government will be officially adopting it in December. So when you say it that way in English, it comes across as much less formal. So, okay, I realized in the original. So, okay, when she said it in the original, in Jedi, she said, it's very formal structure. Naš program predsjedanja vlada će službeno usvojiti u prosincu. Now, in English, as I say, we can have this. We can put that accusative, that object at the start, but then we can sort of work around it, and if we make the sentence sound a little bit more, shall we say, spontaneous, like off the cuff. So our program, well, the government will be officially adopting it. You just make that little pause after you say the program or the presidency program for the presidency, and you can sort of throw in a well, So our program for the presidency, well, the government will be officially adopting it in December. So that's one way of getting around that. Okay, nie muče se navesti, just it will contain is the easiest way to do that. Then in the next bullet point, we've got just a couple of interesting little vocabulary points I wanted. So težnje, aspirations, is a sort of classic rendering of that, and prednosti, in this case, talking about the benefits and opportunities of EU membership. Again, next bullet point, something. So this is a very important one. Usklađeni sa ključnim dokumentima Unije. You hear this all the time. Wherever I work at something being aligned. So that's a very good. When you talk about documents, it's a good word. It's a good solution for documents being aligned. The next bullet point, okay, the 4 priorities. Now, proizlaze iz slogana. So the 2 simplest ways of doing this would just be to stem from or to derive from, are drawn from maybe, but I like stem from. Stem from is a sort of my sort of typical go-to solution there. Okay, now there's quite a lot of interesting vocab coming up in the next few points in these 4 priorities. Okay, so I've given you here for zalagat ćemo something different. Often you'll say we advocate for, we promote, we're in favor of. So another alternative you could have is we will champion. That sounds very grand. I know it's a good one to use. Održiv razvoj. Okay, that's sustainable development. That's really an important buzz phrase to know. Posebnosti. Okay, so I put here specificities. Another interesting phrase that's similar. When you're talking about respecting other countries' specificities, is having also in your mind the idea of judging things on their own merits, countries on their own merits. Okay, that you'll often find that's a good expression to use when it talks about judging each case on its own. Okay, produbljivanje jedinstvenog tržišta. So deepening is obviously, you can say that in English. That seems to work. Expansion, expanding a market. Konkurentnosti, okay, competitiveness, and then here. The reason I bracketed this, noted this, istovremeno vodeći računa. The temptation with vodeći računa is that you always need to say something like take consideration of or take account of. Well, here you just need to say here, at this while addressing climate challenges, you don't always have to say this big, long, clunky, take into consideration, take account of. Okay, I had to think about this next one. Europa koja povezuje. So I think it's that connects is what they're after here. And then this is a horrible little word, a long word. Umreženosti, interconnectedness. Don't think there's any quicker solution than that in English. That is the word you're after, interconnectedness. Next, so this iskorištavanju ljudskih potencijala. So I'm a big fan of this expression in English, to draw, especially drawing on capacities, drawing on resources. It sounds much more, much smoother than making use of that, which sounds a bit clumsy, a bit ugly. To draw on, in this case, human capacities. For potential, 9 out of 10 times you're going to want to go with capacities as opposed to potentials. Potentials in that respect doesn't sound very good in English. It sounds like an awkward calque. So go for capacities. Okay, prometna infrastruktura. That's transport infrastructure. And again, this is all about connectivity, isn't it? Connections. Povezanosti is connectivity. Now, this is again a phrase that comes up a lot. Zbližavanje građana. Now, I guess as I've written here in the margin, the classic thing to do here is to go. We would bring people together. That's as I say, the safe option and the best option. A quick, if you're running behind though, one thing you could maybe try is to rally people. We use that quite a lot in English, to rally people, bring them together. Right, you see, so it's a bit of it rolls off the tongue a little bit quicker than bringing people together. Danas ćemo na nastavku rasprave. So here you can just say, later today. You don't have to throw in later in the follow-up to the debate, or as the debate continues. I mean, everyone knows the context. You have to look at it from that perspective. Everyone knows the context of what's going on here. So you can just say later today we'll hear more about the four priorities. Then next bullet point, tu naravno dolazi do izražaja. So here I've turned this into an active. I put we, okay, so here we'd obviously single out or we would obviously highlight. Now, there is, with Slavic languages, one thing you have to watch out for a little bit is what we call weing, putting too many of these expressions into we, always saying we. Hence the expression weeing. But so long as you don't overdo it, I think, there's obviously always a time and a place. And here I think it would fit in very well. We would highlight this project. Provedbom toga značajnog projekta. So here, as I've put, you can skip this word and lose anything. So, the implementation of this project they're wanting to say, I mean, in English, this project, we sort of, the fact that it's going to be implemented speaks for itself. And so you're not losing anything with that word. You say, this big project for Rijeka, the municipality and Croatia overall will expand. Okay, so you don't need that implementation. This is, again, if you're running behind, if you're like a sentence behind, you think, oh my God, I've got to catch up somehow. Just drop drop implementation. Okay, opseg kulturne ponude. Opseg scope, all right? Now, here is a word. Now, I haven't actually highlighted it in this. Kulturne ponude. I'm going to tell you something about this word. I have been asked for 15 years, how do you say, what's the best translation into English of ponuda? Or from Russian, for example, предложение, or from Spanish, oferta. So especially I've been asked about turistička ponuda. How do you say that? And I've always fobbed people off. I say, you say, our selection, what we have to offer. You get around it, I say. And then the other night it came to me, finally, after 15 years of having to give that same answer. Menu. That is the word. Kulturna ponuda, turistička ponuda. It's menu. Oh, praise be. Our cultural menu. We can expand our tourism menu. I think that is the word. Okay, so run with that. Try that out. Okay, povećati vidljivost Rijeke. So this is classic. Raise the profile of Rijeka. Another favorite word of mine here, if you watch more of my episodes, is priority. So here we go. Here it says, od najveće važnosti. There are so many ways that you can express this. Is of paramount importance, for example. But what does all that just mean? It just means it's the priority, the top priority. You'll be amazed in how many of these sort of expressions, how many times you can just talk about it being the priority. Hence, for stoga, as opposed to just, I think there's a temptation to say therefore, but often in English, we'll go with hence. Saying why something is something, hence will be strengthening internal security. Odpornost. This is a big, in at least the UN, this is a word that gets used all the time. Resilience. They often talk about resilience to external shocks. That's a classic UN sort of cliche. So that's a good word. It's better than just resistance. Okay, so go with resilience for odpornost. Okay, then for kibernetičke prijetnje, you can just say cybercrime. In English, we don't really talk about cybernetic crimes. We just say cybercrime. So feel free to just say cyber. And then here we go again, the next line, as before. Prvenstveno ćemo se zalagati za, again, one of these sort of, there's this temptation to go into some sort of grand equivalent in English, but what does that effectively mean? It just means we will prioritize. Okay, don't overcomplicate when you don't have to. The idea of these things is you're trying to do this statement, you're imagining you're doing it over the remote platforms, it's terrible sound, you just want to cut things down to the bare essentials. So a phrase like that, just we will prioritize. And then I've put in the next sentence, zalagat ćemo se za nastavak. I'm just giving a sort of another alternative in English. So we will push for. So we often do that in English. We'll push for something here. In this case, djelotvorne I verodostojne. So here, again, if you're under pressure, 1 out of 2 of those adjectives will do, and they're basically. They mean the same thing pretty much, don't they? And effective comfortably covers both of those meaning. Effective. We will push for further effective enlargement policy. Na nasze jugoistočno susjedstvo, that's our neighbors, our southeastern neighbors. At the end of that paragraph, as I've crossed out Europsko kontinenta, you don't need the continent, you just say the development and connectivity of Europe. You don't need continent is redundant. It doesn't add anything. Another thing I'm always big on here is then when they sort of, if you're in a hurry again, yeah, and then the speaker goes or whatever, Poštovane dame I gospodo. This is your chance just to get a breather. You don't need to say that if you're in a hurry. Just instead of just let the speaker say that. Take a deep breath. And then continue again. So when they say Mr. President or, ladies and gentlemen, that's your chance. If you're in a bad way, if you're struggling, that's your chance to get a breather. All right? That's why I've said that. And then just a couple of bits of vocab to finish with. Osnažimo vidljivost. So again, using this idea, what was it before? Povećati vidljivost. Now it's osnažimo vidljivost. So I said I give an alternative here to bolster the profile. This is an alternative to raise the profile, and at the end, and then in fact again, then now he's going. So we've had povećati vidljivost, osnažimo vidljivost, podignemo vidljivost. I've given you a third one. I've given you boost as the third one. Boost, raise, bolster. There you go. You got all the synonyms you need for that expression. Okay, so that's everything. That's it. I hope it's been useful for you. I felt a bit nervous. This is the first time I've done an episode from Jedi into English. I hope I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm going to be putting more of these statements out on the LinkedIn page. I'll have stuff from statements from Bosnians, Montenegrins, Serbs, bit of everything, so everyone will feel happy. Okay, so if you enjoyed the episode, remember, smash the thumbs up button. If you haven't subscribed already, please do consider doing so. This is what this is what boosts my profile. When you subscribe to me, that boosts and bolsters and raises my profile, and I'm very grateful to you when you can do that. And that's pretty much it. So all I can say is that it's been emotional, and I look forward to seeing all you guys again. And nothing left to say other than that episode 25 of the Interpretation Station is adjourned. Do widzenia.